The puck is about to drop on your favorite all-Canadian hockey podcast. Without further ado, here are your co-hosts, Mick and Grant. Enjoy Canada Puck!
Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your weekly recap of what's going on in the world of hockey, specifically in Canada, just as the name implies. And if you follow along with my little hand, it's like the bouncing ball on those old Disney sing-alongs that we all know you love. I'm your co-host, Mick. You can find me on Twitter at ProfitMick, and I'm joined every episode by my lovely and talented co-host, the man you see above me,
Grant, on Twitter at Fourth Line Sports. And I am a little banged up this morning, so you get what you paid for, and I'm going to tell you off the bat, it's probably not worth the price of admission, but here we go.
Sometimes you gotta take gambles, though. You know, I once went to a shady carnival. Best experience of my life. Scariest Ferris wheel I've ever been on in my whole life. I didn't even know it was a horror-themed Ferris wheel, but sparks, there was screaming, guy fell off. Great.
Was there, like, horse corn dogs? I picture horse corn dogs at a shitty carnival.
They just, like, stick the stick into the horse, pull it out, and give it to you, and you're like, so, why is it so good?
Why this meat is so fresh?
So fresh, so good.
Well, I've never eaten horse, but maybe I will. I'm going to look for shady carnivals so that I can hopefully encounter this.
Oh, they're the best. Like, that whole safety stuff we do nowadays, it just muddies the water. Like, no one wants that. So, if you are new to the podcast, though, we don't just talk about horse meat, although we should. Like,
maybe we should rebrand as a horse meat podcast. This hockey thing's not working out for us.
Like, I think there's a real market here. Real market going forward. The way we're going to roll those, we have some headlines. We're going to kind of look just NHL in broad strokes, focus a little bit more on NHL teams, or sorry, the Scotia North divisions, the Canadian teams specifically, have a little fantasy advice, a little gambling advice, and we'll get into it. So, it's been a little while. Pre-Super Bowl is the last time we talked, is that right?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago was Super Bowl prop show. I don't even remember how we did, and I was thinking about that because I was supposed to update the spreadsheet, but hung over me being what I am, who I am, I was like, oh God, I must have thrown the paper out. But it wasn't until you just cued me that the last time we spoke was the Super Bowl show. Yeah. So it makes my life so much easier. I feel less like an asshole today. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the other one. And I think with those, we're even going to count those for kind of running totals. It's just kind of for fun. I think I got one right prop. I think I hit, it was like Tampa players under 7.5 to catch a reception. There was exactly 7. I think I won $25. So I spent $100, only walked away with one prop. Got really hosed on that one. So who saw it coming? And I mean, I had an over of 50 points. They had 40 points midway through the third. You've got one of the best offenses we may have ever seen in football. We've got this super dynamic offense coming from Tampa Bay, and it's going to give me those 10 points.
No, we don't want to play football anymore.
On the plus side, though, I know we didn't talk last week. I was on fire. I had a giant parlay, won back most of my winnings from my Super Bowl losses, so, like, I'm feeling pretty good. Now, that was last week. You didn't get to hear that advice. Someone got to actually benefit from it, and maybe it didn't even happen, but I promise it did.
It's funny, because last week I nailed it, too. I had a big 4-game parlay on Friday night, rolled that over to Saturday, kept the good times rolling, and then it's been a long week since then. For some reason, I keep betting on the Detroit Red Wings, even though I see how bad they are, but I just know they're not as bad as we think they are. So I bet on them like the last 3 times, and I'm not doing it tonight. Fuck the Red Wings, not doing it. But now that I'm not doing it, I'm guaranteeing a Wings victory by at least a 4-goal victory. I'm thinking like 5-1, 4-0, something along those lines.
Okay, nice. So I think it kind of basically catches up to where we're at now. Then we can get into more kind of specific things as we go from there. So starting off, I think I'm going to roll up through the standings. This is all courtesy of NHL.com. I don't know if I have to say that. No one cares. NHL's not. They have bigger things to worry about, like the 5 games that are suspended every night. Those are probably bigger things than what.
I would love Gary Bettman to just knock on your door. Hey, Mick, you stop using NHL.com.
I'm going to take some of your coats if you're taking my stuff. Not my coats. My jean jacket.
That's how Mick got hypothermia the second time.
Anyway, so we start at the bottom of the standings, just according, because I kind of do mix this around. There's really no set standard. We're in the Honda West. So what's a big news story? Is there a news story in the Honda West?
Today, The NHL has rebranded the Stadium Series to the NHL Outdoors. And we are traded to Colorado versus Vegas at Lake Tahoe. I saw some pictures, some of the warm-up stuff. It is an absolutely pristine venue, and I'm looking forward just to the backdrop. And it kind of like pays homage to the grassroots of hockey, and I'm sure that's kind of the angle the NHL is going to run with this. But it is going to be a good hockey game for one, with Colorado and Vegas, two of the top bet teams in the futures board, with the most ideal setting. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's 1 o'clock puck drop, I think it is, this afternoon. Tune in because it's going to be worth watching.
Yeah, for sure. I got that set. I said on that one, I saw something. I must have been watching a pregame or just one of those like random late night sports shows. I was kind of flipping through the TV last night, and I was like, okay, I'll have to make time for that. So, all right. If we scroll up, though, we get to the Mass Mutual East. You know what? You put a gun in my head, even after I say them, could not tell you the sponsorships outside of maybe Scotia North, but Mass Mutual East is probably the best sponsorship. So, do you have any big stories going on in the world of that division?
Well, I got to just touch on the sponsorship. Honda West for me just sticks. I can't figure out the rest of them, but Honda, because like the Ducks play in the Honda Center, at least they used to, so that's just kind of equated to me. But the rest of them I couldn't tell you anything about. The East, nothing really tickled my fancy. I think we got a whole bunch of teams coming back to action this week. Devils, Flyers. Who else was on the list there? Maybe that's it. Where the Caps were off for a few, but they've been back a while, so. Get back to normal. I don't really have anything that,
I've seen a little bit, and I don't know, just like this is just random Twitter hole that I fell into, but there's a little Discord of what's kind of going on with lowly Buffalo. You see at the bottom of the standings, they've got 10 points on the season. The Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall, Jeff Skinner line, or just combination, they have something like less even strength goals between them than Austin Matthews does or something like that. Is the stat I've seen, and people were just kind of banning about, could you trade Jack Eichel? That was kind of one of the discussion holes I fell into, and like, what would you do with that? And would you also have to take Jeff Skinner's contract or something like that? It's nice to watch a team that's not a team that you cheer for suffer as much as the Buffalo Sabres have. So that's like something I'm holding on to. I'm like, good job.
And I don't know. I don't think it was the whole line. I think it's the whole team. The entire Sabres team has like 15 even strength or 5-on-5 goals this year. So it was something god awful like that.
So just an abysmal. Like anytime I ever feel bad about like maybe a contract my team has or like salary cap issues, I look at Jeff Skinner and he just makes me feel better. For like $9 million a season for nothing.
Maybe we should start referencing, and no disrespect to Jeff, I mean, maybe a little disrespect to Jeff Skinner. Maybe we should start referencing him as former figure skater Jeff Skinner. Because this guy didn't play hockey till he was like 15, and then just rolled his way into a $9 million contract, so.
Yeah, like, just awful, right? And like, I don't know if I feel bad for Captain Jack, but not really.
Not really. And you know what? This is all on Taylor Hall. If we're being honest with each other, everywhere he goes, that man loses. Like, Arizona notwithstanding, I guess they won a little bit, but otherwise, every team sucks with Taylor Hall. Why are we talking about him as a Hart Trophy winner? He's a draft pick winner. That's what we have come to expect from Taylor Hall.
He is going to be the all-time captain on the best player that, like, makes your team worse. I think I did that maybe last year at some point where, like, I went through and I gave you all the lines of, like, here's all the best, worst players, right? Like, if you wanted to have a team that's crappy, Taylor Hall is almost a guaranteed first overall pick. Like, at this point, they've got 10 points. If we scroll on the bottom, that puts them pretty close. That puts them below the Detroit Red Wings right now. So, Grant's favorite team. So, nice transition to the Discover Central. Anything going on in the Discover Central?
You know what caught me off guard yesterday? I was looking at the standings, and Chicago was sitting second in the standings. Granted, they had played 4 more games than their opponents. Yeah. But when we started this podcast, or started the year, I think I touted Chicago as one of the worst teams, and I have no idea how they finagled their way up the standings. I think once these teams start to play a little bit more, and that is Florida, Columbus, Tampa Bay, they get those games up, they're going to fall back out of favor, and they're playing way above their metrics, too. Like, Chicago is the fade team. Kevin Lankinen, I think he played, that was probably his 13th game in the league last night, and he got absolutely shelled. Expect more of the same.
Yeah. I mean, if following along with the video at home, If you're just looking at like kind of these top teams, you're seeing like a lot of positive differentials in goal, a lot of positive differentials, like Bruins plus 11. Yeah, I mean, there's only plus 1. Okay, all right. We get to the Chicago Blackhawks, and they're minus 1, so they're one of the few teams in a playoff spot with a negative goal differential. Tampa Bay is right below them in the standings with plus 22. So, like Grant said, I'm pretty sure if you believe in it, even if you don't believe in analytics, kind of feel like that's probably not going to withhold. I mean, you've got some pretty good clubs below you, right? So I think just it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. But anyways,
as I scroll up, it's pretty exciting because now we're in the best division, the Scotia North.
should we get money for touting this? Like when we say Honda West, Scotia North, like shouldn't we be getting some sort of like kickback from the league? Not giving Barry Bettman our coats. Like Gary Bettman doesn't need our coats. He should be paying us.
It's true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally feel like Scotia talks to me because they play tragically hip songs in their commercials. So I also have to buy a Dodge truck because they play Foo Fighters, and I was like, I am the target audience for this. This is great.
It's
I
like
never
me
felt
with
so loved. Like, that's
yeah,
a sad
I think
commentary on my life.
well, no, I can beat that. I can make you feel better. It's burgers. Like every time I see a burger commercial, I think it's directed specifically at me. And you know from our university days, when I see a commercial for a burger, we got to go on an adventure and get one. So, you know what? You're a step up from me. So on the opposable thumbs meter, I would say, Mick, Grant. I don't know if you can even see how low my hand went,
No,
but it's lower than you.
It's like
Oh, wow.
it's like where I'm at on the screen. Like I'm always on the bottom, and it's like almost at my level. So that sucks. You don't want to be down here.
I'm coming for you, Mick.
All right. So headlines: Ottawa Senators. They made a trade last week. That was something interesting that they did. I mean, they're playing pretty terrible hockey. They don't look great. A lot of obviously holes in the roster. Their patchwork is not working. They're getting kind of beat up. But they did make a trade. They brought back the man, Ryan Dzingel.
Yeah, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about and throw in your face the 5-1 comeback they had earlier in this week.
Yeah.
That was, like, as far as comebacks in the NHL, I would say Toronto has given us the most meme-worthy fails. So that is, for some reason, they always shit the bed. But Ottawa, kudos to Ottawa, because they came back, and I was even convinced that when they were down 4-1 on night 3 or 5-1 on night 3, I was like, you know what? We are going to see a comeback.
Yeah.
So they inspired me. That's hard to do.
Oh. Yeah, they did play the Leafs this week. They went, 2-1-1 or 2-0-1? So the Leafs went 2-0-1. That one overtime loss. I mean, like really, you walked away from a 3-game series with 5 points. That's pretty good. And I realize that is a historic comeback. May happen. We seem to know them a lot more, whether they're Zamboni drivers that beat us or the Bruins. I mean, we're always talking about them, so that's exciting, right? Like,
yeah, we can't even get through a Senators segment without bringing up the Leafs. So
I was just hoping. Well, I mean, really in a roundabout way, like if you want to talk about that trade, kind of what they sent off, they got rid of Alex Galchenyuk, and I'm blanking on the other player that Carolina picked up for Dzingel.
Turcotte? Was it something Turcotte?
Alex Turcotte or something like that? That's a name. So that maybe is it. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't write it down. But it's one of those things where then later in the week, Toronto flipped a couple prospects for the Alex Galchenyuk, so they brought him back. So full circle, they got beat up by the Senators, but they stole one of their pieces. So take that.
I didn't. Yeah, Alex Galchenyuk. I don't know what was wrong with that draft because I'm pretty sure Galchenyuk came from the Yakupov draft too.
Yeah.
And I think was it Reinhart who was the other one of the other top three picks?
Yakupov, Ryan Murray, who was still playing like okay hockey. Then Galchenyuk, Ryan Griffin, is that his name? And then followed by Morgan Riley. So that's kind of your top 5. So the Leafs are just, like, if they wanted, they could have all top 5 picks right there. So.
Oh, good old, what, is it Ryan Griffin? I can't remember. And he ended up with the Oilers. That's who the Oilers sent off in the expansion draft to the Vegas Knights. So I don't know where he ended up. I don't know if he's still playing hockey. He's obviously not with Vegas, but.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I don't think it's one of those things where the Leafs acquiring Galchenyuk or the Senators, it's going to change the scales either way, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. But, I I'm glad we found another way to avoid talking about the Senators in the dedicated Ottawa Senators segment. Good for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably the most time we've ever spent on the Senators segment this year, and most of it was talking about the Maple Leafs, so good job them. How about the Vancouver Canucks? We move up the standings.
Vancouver? Like, I can't figure out what the hell's going on with Vancouver. Like, they don't want to play hockey, or they forgot how to do it. Something along those lines. I know that I've been low on this team from the get-go, and I'm glad that they're validating my thought process. But to see how, not even badly they're losing, but just how disjointed they look, and then you get the owner, president, whatever, coming out saying everybody's fine, even though at this point in the season, after how bad this team has done, you have to acknowledge that something's not working. Whether it's Benning, whether it's the coaching, whether it's the pieces, something is not working. And for the owner to come out and say everybody's fine, I just thought, one, this is either the worst lip service in the entire universe, or two, this guy doesn't belong in the hockey world, because when things are broken, you have to fix them. You can't just ride it out and hope things get better. Like, I don't know what's going on with Vancouver, but it sounds like it's from the top down not working, and until they decide to change things, you're gonna get the same results.
Yeah. So just something I'm noticing here as I'm looking at this. Again, this is great for an audio podcast. Video podcast works well. Is they do actually have a new column called points percentage, so they can actually show you kind of points if they kind of just rationalize the games, and they're sitting at a measly .405. So they've played the most games in the division, 17 points. They're sitting in 6th. Yeah, it does look like a little bit of doom and gloom for the Canucks. They were part of my underdog parlay last week that won me some money, so I got that one. They were on like a 5-game losing streak against the Flames. I was like, easy money at that point. So, thank you.
And even the curious thing last night, they start Demko. Like, they don't have a true number one. You always save your number one goalie for the second night of a back-to-back. And what we didn't, sorry, it's not even a second night of a back-to-back, but I thought for sure that Holtby was going to get the start last night, and they started Demko, and it ended up, I don't know. I just don't like the Canucks. I'm done getting worked up about them.
All right, let's move on to some things we do like the Calgary Flames. Go Calgary.
Calgary is a team that their truculence is showing, and you know who is underrated? Rasmus Andersson. That guy got shit on last week for some reason, and he responded perfectly. He scored the only goal last night, I think, for the Flames, and he had 2 points the game after he got basically demoted. So Rasmus Andersson is a guy who I've keyed in on FanDuel lineups, and he's been productive this week. He's been one of the, if not the most productive Flame since the last time we spoke.
Super. Yeah, the Flames too are kind of playing uninspired hockey, right? Like, I kind of jot down a week, like, I write little notes when things pop up. Usually the Flames don't even hit them. I've got, like, Flames win in overtime. Canucks lost to the Flames. They seem just, I don't know, uninterested. Like, they're not tipping my, like, interest meter whatsoever, so that's kind of for all these. I did like Rasmus Andersson. I think I was looking between him and Kachuk on my FanDuel lineup, so we might get into that a little bit. But, like, those guys are so undervalued. At some point, they are prone to kind of get a multiple point game. So there are some keys to look at just from that aspect. But anyways, on to number 4. Now we can get into the nitty-gritty, the teams maybe we do care about. We got Montreal Canadiens, Les Abattoirs. 15 games played. That's the lowest in the division. They've got 20 points. They're looking for a breakout at any moment. Move up the standings. What's going on with Montreal? I think they had the week off.
They did have the week off. They haven't played since they beat the Leafs last Saturday 2-1, and they get them on home ice tonight as underdogs. Foreshadowing, wink, wink. But
I'm just gonna say, damn it, that's a bad sign. So I'm sorry, Montreal.
They have fallen down the standings, but they have room to make up games, and their offense is, I think, still the best in the league. And if you want, maybe we can bring up our Canucks versus Canadiens pool, because when we look at the standings, Vancouver has played 21 games, Montreal has played only 15, and you might be surprised with who's in the lead right now, or at least
I'm in the lead. I have 138 points in total. You have 133 or 31.
Shit. I guess I should check before we record podcasts. I looked earlier in the week. I was doing fine. I was up 2, I think.
Oh, I got J for 10, and I got 1 shotgun J. Huh, interesting. Huh. Yeah, I definitely see there's some type of a little bit of discrepancy there, and well then, I mean,
but you know,
only has 3 points for you. So.
Yeah, that one stings. I'm still expecting big things from him. But you know who's an absolute fucking stud? Carey Price. The way that man puts his gear together is just like dynamite. And then he's got his flow sticking out his helmet now. Like, everything about what Carey Price does, I'm here for. His red pads, his white and red pads, his getup, his helmets, his flow. This man deserves a statue in front of the Bell Center.
Did I have anything else? I feel like I did actually. I wrote a note a couple weeks ago. Anything jumps out? No, nothing. Shoot. That's about Corey Perry. I was watching one of the Canadians games, and Corey Perry was on their power play, and that was kind of one of those things where I'm like, that's the best option that you can do on the number 1 power play that you're producing is Corey Perry in front of the net. I don't know. Something to me sounds like maybe there's like something not quite right with the Montreal's offense.
Maybe this is part of a bigger strategy where they're just like they put Corey Perry on the ice to draw more penalties, so it's just a perpetual power play, so that they don't, because like once they have 2 power plays, the other one can't start until the next one ends. So they put Corey Perry out, and then it's just penalty after penalty after penalty. Montreal's playing chess, and you're playing checkers, Mick.
Apparently, yeah. What's going on with the Winnipeg Jets? We move up the standings. They're currently in 3rd place.
Wow. So Blake Wheeler has been one of those guys who's kind of getting crucified in the media. And I was kind of happy to see Paul Maurice stick up for the guy. He came out here and he kind of basically shamed all the reporters for bringing up Blake Wheeler and, relying on analytics, blah, 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 blah. But when we actually look at the analytics of the Winnipeg Jets, they are luck-boxing their way to victory, mostly thanks to Connor Hellebuck. So looking at expected goals for percentage, they've posted a negative expected goals for percentage in like 10 of their last 11 or 10 of their last 12, something along those lines. But they're still winning games. Like they're obviously 3rd place in the North, which is a super competitive division this year with a ton of offense. But somehow they managed to win. I don't know if this is gonna. It kind of reminds me of the Ottawa Senators. Jesus, was that 4 years ago when they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Penguins? Lost in overtime in Game 7, and then things collapsed. Like, they had the exact same metrics in the sense that they were under or overachieving offensively and relying on goaltending. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck, I would say, is an upgrade over Craig Anderson. But it's the exact same. When I look at this, they're parallel. This team is doomed for implosion unless they change something. And when we see Paul Maurice dismissing the analytics, it kind of makes me think that they're not going to change anything, and we're just heading for this collision course where the Jets are going to explode.
They're kind of what they are. And noteworthy, only because I've been looking on FanDuel, because I'm expecting a big performance when Pierre-Luc Dubois does actually make his on-ice season appearance for the Jets. They kind of got rid of Laine a month ago, right? And they have not seen any return for that, which is just like crazy. Like he made it onto the ice after his quarantine, and then he was injured or something like that. And I don't think he's actually played any time for them. And I don't know if there's like a time frame for his return. So that's just, I'm curious to see how this team kind of comes together when you add his kind of presence to the ice. So
I think he played 1 game and then he got injured the next morning at practice. I think it was hamstring or something, lower body. I think they called it. So. But that he wasn't even impressive. Like, I was expecting him to step in and be this difference maker right away. No, he wasn't.
Yeah, so it's just kind of interesting to kind of watch that going forward and see. That's where my attention is, but it's kind of one of those, like, that's unfortunate because there's injuries. So hopefully he hurries back. Now on to the top 2 teams. This is really exciting stuff. Look at that. The Edmonton Oilers, 2nd place. Kicking butts and taking names. Whew.
You know what was most impressive last night is that they won without Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl recording a point. At least I don't think they did. And that's, I would say, maybe the 3rd time this season already. And that's a big step up for this team because we have come from like many years of suffering watching the lack of secondary scoring impact this team. And not that they have a ton of it, but they have enough of it where Connor McDavid got to 500 points this week in the exact same amount of games as Sidney Crosby.
I did see that. Trending a little bit. I thought that was like, oh, that's pretty neat. Just even that game last night against the Flames. Not that the Flames are like going to change the world, but they are known a little bit for their third period comebacks. And for the last like 15 minutes of the game, the Oilers played sound defensive hockey. Did I say that right? Did I stutter? I think, like, to me, I'm like, that is a very
I didn't really expect that either.
No, and it was one of those things where I was like watching it, and I was like, this almost looks like a competent team, right? Like you're used to them just collapsing defensively. So I mean, like those things early on, mid-season, the fact that there is some type of maybe you can get a little bit of consistency on that back end, sky's the limit. So.
Yeah, just to touch on that briefly, I looked at the box score last night and I saw that Mike Smith only had 21 shots faced, and I immediately assumed that there was just something wrong with. I was like, wow, the score app's acting funny again. But nope, they actually played sound defensive hockey.
Well, and I wonder if that is just a little difference too. We're seeing a little bit later on is that presence of the Koskinen and Mike Smith, and running with that tandem does give them a little bit more just insurance than kind of just like relying on Koskinen for like the majority of the season, right? So if they can the coaching staff can kind of manage those two guys, they're going to be competitive, right? Like it's going to happen, and you're going to get the McDavid games and the Draisaitl games, and I think you're probably looking at a playoff spot. So
yeah, and I don't want to jinx it or anything, but we are seeing better hockey, and they are pointed in the right direction. So we just need to keep it up.
Sweet, yo. And then finally, we got to end with the Toronto Maple Leafs kicking ass. I think they're top of the league right now, 28 points. That must be the best in the league. 18 games played, 78. Yeah, they're playing a good brand of hockey. They're kind of getting contributions from all levels, right? Not just the top line, not just the big names, but other guys are scoring. Defensively, they're looking fairly sound outside of a little bit of a collapse against the Senators. Goaltending looks alright. Like it's kind of a shame that we don't get to see them compared to the other divisions, right? Like this is kind of that. I kind of like hate this interdivisional play where I think it's awesome. It makes every game seem super important, even if it's just a random Thursday night against the Senators. All of a sudden, my attention is on the TV versus if they're like playing the LA Kings or something like that. I'm like, I don't really care. So like I love that part of it, but then I kind of do hate the fact that we're not seeing that like a lot of diversity, and like it's gonna make the playoffs just really interesting, right? It's gonna be these clubs facing each other for the very first time, and you're gonna see kind of like what coaching means in hockey, right? So.
Yeah, and I think he touched on two things that I just got to expand on. One of which was Frederik Andersen, because he has been playing better than what we've seen. And I think goalies in contract years, like there's no escaping it. They do better in contract years. And that I think happens to be the case with Andersen this year. The other thing, Leafs have embraced the analytics. Like they understand this better than any team in the league, and it shows. And when you look at these box scores, especially over the last 8 games, you can see that they are using the analytics piece to their advantage. They haven't posted a negative expected goals for percentage in 8 games. Granted, 6 of those games did come against the 2 worst teams, that is the Sens and Canucks, so maybe that's impacting it. But their offense is free-flowing, and they have been more structured or more responsible defensively, where they're not giving up those high-danger chances like we used to see in years past over and over and over again. So this team could do great things. It's just going to be that playoff hump that they just can't get over, and that we saw, and if we want to do a cross-sport analogy, we saw it with the Raptors in basketball, where they had DeRozan, they had Lowry. They basically didn't they kept on going with what they had, and they failed, and it wasn't until they made that big change in getting rid of DeRozan where they actually got over the hump. So I'm wondering if it's the same change that the Leafs are going to need to make, and I think we'll know after this playoff run whether or not they're going to do that. Because if they're not successful this year with what they have, I guarantee you changes are coming.
and we did touch on it just a little bit at the start, is his greatness. Austin Matthews is like just a difference maker. Like, he's playing like a man possessed, and if this is what you're going to get for the next 5 years or 4 years of a current contract, maybe going forward, right? You're going to see one of the better players, maybe the best Maple Leaf ever, right? I mean, maybe I'm just being hyperbolic at this point, but it's one of those things, like, he's playing like yeah, exactly. I am taking it long, and I am taking it hard, you know? And it's one of those things where he looks like a difference. Like, if you leave him alone on the ice, guys are scared. There was one point last Saturday night where it was a 4-on-4. I don't know exactly how they got to that point, but 4-on-4, Matthews on the left side of the ice had the puck. There was 3 Montreal Canadiens focusing, going towards Matthews, trying to just stop him from doing what he does. And I think they ended up scoring as a result of that play. But you see just kind of the fear that other teams, and the respect that he's being shown. So it's nice to see, and I think that's going to go a long way in the playoffs, right? Like, I mean, if he goes quiet like he has in the years past, and he gets into a fight with the coach, and he gets benched, like, those things can't be overlooked, right? So, bless Mike Babcock's heart.
Man, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Is that he? Does he still do commentary?
He is on NBC or something like that, trying to do like a little bit of a redemption tour or something like that. Because there was some story about, there was like the Mitch Marner thing, where he came and like he was told to, early on in his career, was told to rank all the other teammates based on how hard they were, and he left the paper on his desk during his next player meeting, and then someone else saw it, and the kind of word got out. And they're like, oh, that's kind of douchey. He's like, oh, but I think that really helped him develop. You know, I'm like such a dick. Why would you do that?
Years later, he still hasn't learned his lesson. Hey,
Yeah.
he's still a dick.
Still a dick. So, anyways, now that we've kind of talked about what is happening, let's get into kind of more of a, let's do fantasy first. My dirty fantasy. Talk a little about that, and then we can kind of get into what we think's going to happen. So,
all right, I have just 2 final touches to put on my roster. So, Mick, you run with this. I want to see what you got coming up for FanDuel tonight.
cool. So I did get an email while we were recording that not enough people entered my little lineup. So technically, this lineup is moot. Oh, hopefully I didn't delete it. Hopefully I can still look at it. So essentially, the contest didn't roll. There wasn't enough entries. Oh no, it's gone. FanDuel. Upcoming. No upcoming. Oh, great. What I was looking at for tonight, I mean, it was on the screen for a second. So if you wanted to pause and then listen and then go back. I do believe I had a stack of St. Louis Blues. So I had Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron. I thought that was a good mixture. I went a little bit high on my defensemen. I ended up with Shea Weber and Carlson, I believe. Carey Price and Nets. I think that we're probably going to see a win tonight. Probably going to see a pretty good performance. I have a feeling about that Canadiens game. A little bit of a spoiler there. Matthew Tkachuk was one of my utility players at like 5,600, which I think is great value. I mean, like, there's a chance he's going to take some stupid penalties. He might score. He might get a couple assists, and those things are pretty important. My other 2, I forgot what other pairing I took. Anyways, so those are kind of my advice. The rest is up to you. Now that you know kind of what I'm thinking, you can go from there. So, shoot.
All right, so I'm high on the Carolina Hurricanes today. I think that not only are they in a better spot, but we're starting to see a lot of offensive production, and that Aho Teravainen lineup is one of the difference makers for the Canes. So I'm expecting big things from them. Sebastian Aho at center, Teuvo Teravainen at I have him in winger. I have him in a utility spot. And then I also think Jake Bean, who's actually from Calgary, is going to be, he's not a big productive guy, but he was low on the cost list, $3,500 salary, so I rolled with him. I don't think any lineup would be complete without Connor McDavid, so I had to include Connor McDavid. I guess he's kind of the Austin Matthews of my heart, so he's in there for me. Clayton Keller, who is just lighting it up in Arizona. He's been one of their best goal scorers. I think he's actually in the top 10 in goal scoring this year. Like, he just has a knack for finding the back of the net. he's made his way into my lineup. I like Shea Weber. I was trying to find a way to include more Canadians, but I wasn't able to. So I have Shea Weber on defense and Josh Anderson complementing him from a Habs perspective. Anderson has 3 goals in 3 games against the Leafs, but he was also held off the score sheet last week. So I'm expecting him, I guess, to bounce back, if we could call it a bounce back, but I expect him to be a difference maker. And rounding out, I guess, my Connor McDavid compliment, I have Jesse Puljujarvi, who's been on the receiving end of a few McDavid passes over the last week, and Mikko Koskinen in net. So that leaves you with literally $0 in your bank account or your salary lineup. And I'm going to press enter because I believe in this lineup. So
sweet. Yeah, those are good. And like I do feel like if you're like, my best advice I can give you right now is you can follow little strategies like I tried to do, right? So I paid for the higher end defenseman, got my good goalie, and then just kind of like picked and chose at that point. But really, it's, are you having fun filling out that lineup, and do you believe in it, right? Like if you end up kind of stuck, like I was a little bit stuck there, I kind of had to settle on 1 or 2 things, which is okay. But there was a week, like maybe our second or third entry, where I almost settled in the entire team. I got like 3 guys that I wanted, and it settled, and I ended up with 60 points, some pathetic amount, right? And I think those things do come into play, right? Like if your gut's just not in it, sometimes maybe it's best not to put your wallet in it, right? So
yeah, that's fair. One thing I've noticed as I've kind of got myself fully entrenched in this daily fantasy stuff is my personal angle and how I've found success is finding the team that you think will win and then building your lineup from there. So if you haven't gathered, I believe in the Carolina Hurricanes, Edmonton Oilers, and Montreal Canadiens tonight.
Cool. All right. Well, we got a little bit of dichotomy. Now we're going to get into Bettor Advice, which is our end segment. What we're doing is we're taking $100 every week. We're gambling, and we're keeping tabs on just how we do. Last we looked, I was up somewhere around like $59, $60 or something like that on the season. Grant, someone was close. Like it was like 70, 80 or something like that. So we're both in kind of the plus monies after four weeks of competing. This will be our 5th. So.
Yeah, so we have both. Yeah, you started off slow. You hammered back last week or last time we recorded. I think you went 4 for 5. I had a bit of an off week, so I gave back some winnings. I think I have like a $14 cushion on you over the year, something like that. But I think the most important part is we're both in plus money, which is over the, what is this, year 5 of our podcast. I don't know too many times when that's actually happened where we both had this kind of success. So
usually we're like up or down or something like that. And
yeah. So I'm rolling with it tonight. I got 3 picks. I might actually make a 4th. Actually, you know what? I will make a 4th. But I got 3 loaded up right now, and then I'll let you go. As you've gathered, I'm high on the Montreal Canadiens. They are dynamite on home ice. They just they absolutely run away with chances. And from an advanced perspective, I think they had a positive expected goals for in 6 of 8. So they are creating a ton of chances. They're also good at limiting chances. I love Carey Price on Saturday night too. There's something special about 1, this matchup, but 2, Carey Price. If you can't tell, I got that man hard on going on right now again. So I like the Habs, especially at plus money. I was expecting this to be like more of a pick'em, but nope. I don't know if it's money that poured in on the Leafs or if this line just opened in the Leafs' favor. But I have Montreal plus 100. Another team for $40. Another team I've keyed in on is the Vegas Golden Knights. That's one of the NHL outdoors games. They deserved better the last time they played the Avs, and for whatever reason, Philip Grubauer just has their number. Like, he's been stoning them, but I don't think that he can sustain this. He's like 5 games into this above average save percentage. I think he's stopping like 95% of the shots over this time. It's not sustainable, especially when we look at Vegas' metrics in the sense that they produce a lot. Like, they get a lot of chances, especially from high probability areas. So I am taking the Vegas Golden Knights at plus 104. I thought long and hard about the over 2 because there is an interesting trend, and I'll probably tweak this, or maybe I'll include that in my 4th bet that I get to here. So Vegas plus 104 for $30. Saturday wouldn't be Saturday without an overtime wager, and I am going to 2 defensive clubs, Minnesota and Anaheim. I can't help myself on this one. I can't look at this lineup or these teams and think this game doesn't get sorted out in overtime. So, and it kind of reflects that in the betting market. Normally you get this like plus 300, plus 320, somewhere in that range, like plus 350 on the long shots. But this is down to plus 290. So I think that's an acknowledgement from the betting market that, you know what, if there's a game that's going to go to overtime tonight, it's going to be this one. So I'm on that one for $20. And that leaves me $10 that I'm going to roll into a parlay. But I want to hear what you got.
All right, yeah. So I'm following a similar trend. Now, the one thing I was noticing as I was trying to look at teams specifically in the Scotia North, after those delays, right? Like they get those 4, 5, 6, 7 days off, kind of almost like miniature bye weeks randomly throughout the season. When they're coming back, now some of those again are just because there's Canucks and Senators involved. They're about 3 and 6. So it is trending that you're going to be a little bit flat-footed and just not have the juice when you get kind of those longer delays. Saying that, though, when I was looking this morning, I saw Montreal at minus 110 over the Leafs. I'm going to put $25 on them, and I'm going to take $10, and I'm going to push that into an overtime bet at plus, actually I didn't look that up, call it plus 300. My second bet, so that's about $35. I'm going to take another $35 and put it on the Calgary Flames at plus 110 to win. So those would be kind of my 2 big plays there, pushing both underdogs. I had pretty good success. I think all the underdogs in the Scotia division covered last week, so I'm hoping for something similar today. And then, I don't know if it was just something in the air, but I smelt a lot of overtimes. So there's going to be a couple overtimes. I'm not sure where they are, but it just seems like it's that kind of a day, where like these games are going to be going a little bit delayed. They're going to interrupt the broadcast for the next ones. So I've got 3 overtime picks, $10 each. I like Pittsburgh and the Islanders to go to overtime at plus 320. Columbus and Nashville overtime plus 335. And I like the Tampa Bay Carolina Hurricanes to go to overtime at plus 350.
Man, those are dynamite overtime picks. I like all of those.
Yeah, I was kind of channeling you a little bit, obviously, while I was on the couch this morning. I was like, oh, what does Grant think? So...
It's so funny because like every Saturday I can't help myself. This is a tradition that goes back to, I don't even know, at least a decade now, over a decade, probably 15 years, where the Saturday night shootout ticket, where we go down, get a Sports Select ticket, and Carolina and Pittsburgh were teams that I was looking really hard at. I haven't come up with my personal shootout ticket for tonight yet, but I'm definitely going to build off of some of your thought process there. So I'm going to wrap things up. I got my $10 4-game parlay loaded and locked and ready, and I can't help myself. It's kind of like crack cocaine maybe, but I have the Detroit Red Wings in there. So I have Detroit at plus 148, St. Louis Blues minus 190. They outplayed San Jose 2 nights ago, whatever it was. Yeah, 2 nights ago, Thursday night. But for whatever reason, and it wasn't until they got a late third period goal with the net empty that they actually came back. I think that they absolutely demolished the Sharks tonight. So I'm taking St. Louis. Carolina, I bet you they win in overtime. I'm willing to bet that, but I just took them straight up on the money line at plus 134. And then lastly, I did take the over. 7 of 11 games, outdoor games, have gone over the total in the NHL. So I'm expecting that trend to continue, especially when we consider both the Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche offense. Mm-hmm. So over 5.5 minus 110. It's a $10 parlay that pays plus 15.65. So basically, I'll walk away with $156 in my pocket if all 4 hit.
Sweet, I like that. I will take note of the over. I know I had a bit of a strategy where I was just picking games to go over, and they were hitting quite a bit. I do feel like scoring was down at least the last couple days. So unless it's just like a midweek dip or something like that, I'm going to just take a step back, roll the dice a little bit with a couple overtimes. I mean, if I hit one of them, basically it pays for themselves. So I don't hate that approach. Hit 2, you're in the money. So.
I dig it.
Sweet yo. So we covered on everything else. Trades that happened. I don't think there was any other kind of weird trades that happened throughout the league. Quiet, weird random quarantine. There was one I didn't understand. There was a postponement in the Chicago game tonight or something. I saw that, and I don't know why, because I feel like both teams played the night before, so I don't understand why they're postponed today. Yeah, it's the Chicago-Carolina game.
So I think that was postponed earlier in the week so that Carolina could make it up with Tampa Bay. Like the NHL had to shift a bunch of their scheduling with all the postponements.
Yeah, okay, never mind. That makes sense. I just had to talk through that one because I was like, but they played last night. Like, why is it? I got you. also why. All right. Well, it's good that they're back on track. 2 postponements, but basically it's a makeup game, so that's all right.
Yeah, and I think just to what we should expect moving forward after that rash of postponements over the last 2 weeks is like these teams are going to play a lot of hockey over the next 2 months, 2 months and change, whatever it is. So it's going to get sloppy, and we kind of saw. I can't remember if I alluded to it or if I put it in one of the something I was writing online, but we saw it in Montreal or Toronto when the Ottawa Senators were playing the Leafs for the 3rd time in 4 nights. Like, it was just a lot of hockey. Like, it was going to get messy, and it did. That was the 7-3 game. So I'm expecting that once we get into this, make-up games where we're playing, 5 games in 7 night type scenarios, expect a lot of overs to hit because it's just going to get sloppy defensively, and it's going to be, run and gun type of hockey. So kind of exciting, and I would say have the overs queued up for those games.
Sweet. Cool. All right. Good advice. That kind of is it, like you ran through some stuff. I have nothing else written on my sheet that needs to be discussed. I gave a little fellatio. What more could you ask for?
Maybe a little money from the NHL or something for pumping their tires for 5 years, but that's beside the point. A podcast wouldn't be a podcast without our Babe of the Week. And Mick, I need you to throw out everything you know about milkers. Anything you think you know, you don't know. It's out the window. Okay. And our Babe of the Week is Audrey Adames. So Audry, Adames, like Willie Adames, Adames. This absolute rocket of a woman has everything that you want and so much more. And we are all better for looking at her pictures online. And 251,000 followers is not nearly enough of what this woman deserves. So Audrey Adames is our Babe of the Week. Schwing!
Nice. Good job. Adames. Awesome. I forgot everything I knew about milkers, and now I have to relearn everything. So great. I know what I'm doing this afternoon.
Well, you put that hard time in because this is something that's important you need to focus on.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. All right, good. So we're back at it. That's kind of it. We're done early today. It doesn't usually happen. That's strange.
Yeah, what the hell's going on around here? We actually got our cohesive thoughts out. We didn't even have to stop or pause.
No, that's weird. Oh. All right, well, I guess just...
Maybe we should talk about horse meat for the next 20 minutes or so. We don't want to leave our podcast listeners short on time here.
A little trial, that'd be all right. Maybe we'll be short on time because by the time this gets up, you will not have enough time to watch that Colorado-Vegas outdoor game. Mandatory watching this afternoon. So get yourself in front of the TV. Cool. So with that, party on, Grant.
Party on, Mick. We will see everybody next week.
Bye.